Hey, this is Dariela Nieves, and I want to welcome you back to part two of this video. Part one, I talked about different voiceover conferences that you could go to and why I attend, what I get out of them. And this video, which I also expect to, have some meat to it, which is why I broke up these videos into two spots, is going to be talking about some strategies that I use when picking a conference and different considerations that you should also put into it besides just my strategies. Basically, I look at a few things when I'm looking at any conference, right? I look at the location, where is it? Is it like VO Atlanta where it's always in Atlanta, or Vocation NYC is always in NYC, or does it move around? I look at the cost, of course. I look at the number of days that the conference is going to last, because some are 1 day, some are 4, some are 2. It's an investment. And I also look at the sessions offered, like what is the content that's being presented. So first, let's talk about the location. A lot of people will pick a place based off of where it is. Obviously, let's say I'm in America, I'm in North America, the United States. So I live on the East Coast. It's going to cost me a bit if I want to go to Canada or if I want to go to the West Coast, then, differently compared to going somewhere that's also on the East Coast or even in the Midwest, Chicago or something. For me, for you, something similar based off of where you live. Also, some people think about, can I combine this with, a family trip or something? Maybe you're going to be bringing your people with you. I travel alone, but some people bring their spouse, significant other, children with them. So think about whether or not you could combine the vacation aspect, or is that not important to you? For me, it's not important to be able to combine vacation with business, but that's just because of, where I am in life. Your methods may vary. If you're considering a conference that's in a city that you don't particularly care for, there's nothing exciting about it to you, don't just write off the whole conference. Think about what you're going to get out of it. Look at those sessions. I'm going to talk about that in a second, but it's great when it's a city that you've been wanting to go to or that you love, but don't just discount it just because it doesn't excite you. The second thing that I consider is the length. How long is the conference? I spoke at a conference last year, November 2019, that it was like roughly a day and a half, kind of. It really wasn't a long conference. It was slightly more than a day because as a speaker, I was asked to come the previous day to, network and, come to the social and different things. But really, if you are going to be spending a lot of money, I would think you'd want to be in a place for a while. You'd want to be there for more than a day. If you are going someplace and you're going to be there for 3 or 4 days, you also, even while you might get return on investment with that, you got to think about the cost of how many days you're going to be staying there. I know that there's variables with like the days of the week and stuff, but if you're going to fly someplace or drive someplace, that's pretty much going to be what you're investing, whether it's 1 day or 4 days. If you're flying to and from someplace, you're going to fly to and from there regardless of how long you're going to be there, right? If you're driving, it's going to take the same number of hours if the conference is 2 days long. It doesn't matter how long the duration of the event is, you're still going to have to invest the money or the time or both, really, to be able to get to and from that place. I mean, even if you live in the city where it is, I lived in Atlanta for many years, and all those years that I lived there, I didn't go to VO Atlanta. But if I had, I'd still have to invest the time to get there and back, because I work from home. I really don't have to deal with traffic the way that a lot of people do. I can pick and choose 99% of the time when I decide to leave my house. So there's always an investment there. The biggest part for me really is the sessions. This is the biggest thing. This is going to really be the thing that makes me decide if I'm going to go to a conference, even more so than the cost and all that other stuff. Because I feel like if I'm expecting a certain amount of content or to hear a particular person or to meet a particular person, then that is going to trump, I'm sorry I have to use that word, but it's going to have to trump, all the other costs that I have. For me, that's what the most important thing. It doesn't make sense to me for me to go someplace and the content they're providing is not relevant to me. Okay. I talked about in the first part of this video, in case you haven't watched it, that it's good to go to a conference even if you're not necessarily in the industry, if it's at all remotely related to your interests or what you do, because you're going to be able to get something out of it. But for me in particular, with voiceover conferences, there's a professional development aspect that I'm looking for. There's a networking aspect that I'm looking for. So I don't put that much weight, for example, on like who is speaking necessarily if I don't know them. Let's say it's a name that I know, that's cool. But if it's someone that I've never heard of, some of you have never heard of me. Does that mean that I don't have any value? Of course it doesn't. I have loads of value. You're getting it right now. This is just a little tip of the iceberg. But no matter who's speaking, what are they talking about? I read the different descriptions. Sometimes they don't have the descriptions available right away because they have different timelines for when a speaker has to submit all of their materials. So maybe they only have the title, or maybe they only have the topics. Try to get an idea of what they're going to be talking about there. And maybe it's possible that you might not be able to invest in all 3 or 4 days of the conference. Maybe there's a 1-day offer that you can go to and just say, whenever they're talking about this particular topic, that's the day that I really want to go. Or when this person speaks, that's the day that I want to go, and I'm going to make use of that 1 day. Now, if I have heard someone speak at a conference before and it's the same type of topic, then I have a fairly good idea of where they're going. And if there's a concurrent session, a session that's happening at the same time, then I might just go to another session instead. And that gives me that freedom to not feel like FOMO, like I'm missing something important that maybe I've already heard them before. It's really typical to see a lot of the same names that are speaking at the same types of VO conferences. And so that really comes in handy. Now, if you're new, this isn't really a factor. I'm just saying, just in case that you're watching this video and you're like, you know what, I just want to know about VO conferences, but I've been to some and I want to see what she's talking about. There's times that I've heard many of those people at that conference before. Like, for instance, I think I looked at VO North, which I mentioned in part 1 of this video, and there's so many people there that I have already, heard them speak or met them or whatever before taking their classes. I've already invested money there, so I'm more apt to let that particular conference or let that particular event pass and, invest the money that I would have spent on coaching or marketing per se. When you look at the sessions, what you want to do is ask yourself if they're offering you information on topics that you can apply to your business in the coming year. Or is it something that, you might use someday, because someday almost means never. You want to be able to apply information ASAP. You want to be able to go home and just start working on tasks that you can do, and you can build that momentum and keep it going. Before you register and spend all your time and money in this event, this is an event that you're going to benefit from. And, not necessarily like I'm going to book a job here, but I'm going to get information. I'm going to meet some really good people, and connect. You might be able to help each other down the line. You might meet some of your best friends there, Take all these things into consideration and let me know in the comments if you have used any of these strategies, or if they, you're watching them now and then you implement them later and they work for you. I'd love to hear from you. If you're going to a conference and you don't know anybody there, then don't let that stop you. Go, even if, your family's not with you, nobody's with you, because you're on a mission to learn and to grow and invest in yourself, right? To make it a point to start conversations, glean as much information as you can, talk to strangers because everybody's a stranger, talk to people, ask questions. When you come to a conference, you're there to talk to people. You're not there to be by yourself. If you were there to be by yourself, you would just do a webinar or, something online where you don't have to be around people. Come to a conference, you're going to be around people. You're not bothering them by talking to them and asking them questions. If you are bothering them, if they act like they're bothering you, then that's on them. They're in the wrong place. If you go to the conference and you're by yourself, you don't have to eat alone. I do eat alone a lot because I don't always put myself out there. But if you go to a lobby area or pretty much anywhere, you can find groups of people and you can crash with somebody. There's somebody that's going to let you in. It's going to be like, hey, sit with us. You can sit with us. And you don't have to eat alone. You don't have to be alone if you don't want to. Of course, there'll be some of you that's like, look, I need to recharge. I got to get away. I need some me time right quick. But for those of you that, don't want to eat alone, you don't have to. If you sign up for the organized meals at the conference, if they have them, especially bigger conferences where it's like thousands of people, it's a cool thing to try to sit always with someone you don't know. It doesn't mean you have to sit with a full table of strangers. Of course, that works. But always try to sit with someone that you don't know, meet people that you don't know. It's a great time. Meals are a great time to connect and network and talk to them. Like I said, they're at a conference. They know they're going to be with people. If they didn't want to be around people, they would go to their room or they would go off site and do their own thing. So the fact that they're there means that they're cool with talking to people that they don't know. That's the only way that your network grows, is if you talk to people you don't know. Another good reason to check the schedule is so that you can plan ahead. Even if you don't know people like in real life, when you get there, perhaps you could get with a group of people that are having a gathering per se. I like Facebook groups for this. If you're a part of any Facebook groups that are about voiceover, they will likely be talking about conferences as they come up and say, hey, who's going to such and such a conference? And then you guys can arrange, by interest or whatever, to get together as a group to exchange a number so that once you're there, you don't feel like you're by yourself. You don't feel like everyone's a stranger. I mentioned this a few moments ago, but if you want to be extra social, you're an extrovert, you're there to party or whatever, get phone numbers of people, connect with people in advance so that you know that when you get to the conference, you guys can get together. It's really disappointing when you think you're going to meet someone. Yeah, I'm going to that conference. I'll see you there. And you don't see them. Maybe they're using Facebook Messenger and you don't use Messenger. Like, I don't use it. Maybe you don't have their phone number. And then you get back home and you're like, dang, so-and-so was there. Like, you see pictures posted or something. You're like, they was there and I was there and I didn't see them. Dang. You don't want to be disappointed like that. You don't want to miss an opportunity. So make sure you try to connect with people in some way, shape, or form. Maybe you guys meet on that Monday or that Saturday. You have numbers, something so that you can connect. Another cool thing about me going to VO Atlanta the first time when I didn't know anybody is that, because I didn't know who were the coaches, who were the stars, who were the big names in the industry, who were the agents, because you don't know. You have a name tag, but it doesn't say what you do. So not knowing what people do and not having that to worry about allows you to be able to talk to them one-on-one as a person. Like I'm talking to you right now. Like, there's no big I's and little U's. It's not like, oh, well, I'm an agent and, I'm this and I'm that. It's like, no. We're all cool. We're all people. We're just relating to each other. If we can help each other, great. If we can work together, partner together, great. We could certainly learn from each other. But, there should be no attitudes there. And that's why Gerald doesn't, put the distinctions and titles there. And that was helpful to me because it took the pressure off. It's just like, I'm here. I'm just trying to figure out where I fit in, where I belong. And, what am I really interested in? What's really behind this, mystery of voiceover? Also, you want to know what's the purpose of the conference. I mentioned in the previous part 1 of this video that Vocation NYC is really focused on the business of voiceover, whereas a lot of conferences have a mixture of all different kinds of purposes. Usually there's a lot riding on performance and training and as well as business. But, there are different niches depending. So find out the purpose of the conference and the types of people that attend. When you go to VO North, are you going to mostly meet with Canadians? There's nothing wrong with Canadians, but I'm just saying, if you go to this particular conference, will you have a diverse mix that includes people of color? Who are the people that tend to convene in these places? Because that also adds to the feel and the energy of the event. You want to ask questions. Again, social media is great for this. Researching about the vibe of the conference. I'm giving you a lot of technical aspects to look at that are just like black and white. Either it is or it isn't. But what is the vibe? Do people, generally feel like, welcomed there? Is it stuffy? There's lots of conferences that are just super buttoned up and, it's all, yes, sir, and yes, ma'am. And there's some that are really chill and relaxed, I wouldn't roll up in there wearing shorts or a bikini, but, it's just like a vibe that you have. You know what I'm talking about, the vibe. And that vibe really helps determine, your experience and how much you enjoy it. So it's one thing to get the information and get the ROI, but it's another to understand the vibe of the conference. Think about when you were in school, certain schools, like high school, middle school, whatever, they had reputations for, the way that they feel, or the way, this is a more preppy place, or this is more this, or they're uppity over here, and conferences are like that too. Some, I'm sure that they all, want to feel inclusive and welcoming to their guests, but I have been to many conferences where people didn't talk to me. You know what I mean? And because I'm just an assertive person and I'm a goal getter, I didn't let that stop me, but it can make you feel a type of way. So if you're the type of person that really thrives off the energy of a conference, use social media, read blogs, ask in Facebook groups, what's the vibe like? How do people treat you when you're here? Not just the conference staff, but just attendees in general, just people. Is it small and more intimate, or is it like overwhelming? There's like thousands of people. For me, I don't really care either way. I'm going to be all right. But for some people, that's really important to be in a place where, it's not overwhelming. It's not like a million people around. If that's you, then you want to stick with the conferences that I mentioned in part 1 that are smaller conferences. When you see the program, when the program of the conference is developed enough, like they've gotten a little bit closer to the date or whatever, take a look at the schedule. They're always posted on the website. Take a look at the schedule, take a look at the speaker descriptions, find out what the format is. Is it a situation where, you're all in one big auditorium and everybody's together all day long? Are there lots of breakouts? What is the format? Again, how many days is it? Which days seem to have the most content that you're interested in? Is it on the Saturday? Is it the second day, the third day? Try to strategize that. A lot of people will take their equipment with them, their microphones and everything, so that they can, do stuff in their room. If they could see in the schedule, okay, well, there's really nothing going on in this 1 hour block. I can take this time to just chill, rest in my room, do auditions, check emails, whatever, call my folks. It's really good to be able to plan that out so you're not like feeling like, frazzled when you're there. Find out if the structure of the conference is that it's set in a hotel or close to a hotel where you can stay, because if you're staying offsite, let's say you're staying at an Airbnb or something, or if it's an event like that's Voiceover that I went to where it was in a building that was not a hotel, so you just kind of had to be there for 12 hours and just be there, and you didn't really have time to decompress, that might be, a deal breaker for you. So decide based on the format and the venue whether or not you can kind of hang out there all day, if you'll be all right, if you can keep it together, what you need to do. Do you need to bring snacks? What do you need to do so you can keep your energy level up? When there's sessions that you want to go to that are concurrent, let's say, there's 2 or 3 things going on at the exact same time and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do. Try to get with somebody that you know in advance and see if they're going to it. And if you can't do that, this is even better. Go to the other 2 rooms. Find somebody, even if you don't know them, be like, hey, are you going to be taking notes in here? Because, I really want to be here, but I can't be in 2 places at one time. Somebody's going to be like, hey, don't worry. Here's my information. Just, holler at me later and we can connect and I can let you know what happened. If you go to a conference like VO Atlanta, they record all of their sessions. So there is a way when you're registering, there's an option so that you can watch pretty much anything that they've recorded. My final tip for this video, a final tip for conferences, is to plan to implement, okay? While you're still at the event, you've got your notes, you've got notes from other people. Make notes or put them on task lists on your app or whatever you need to do as to, circle it, star it, mark it in some kind of way so that this is something that I need to do when I get home. You might not be able to do everything the next day, but put it on your calendar. Say, next week, I'm going to call these people. Next week, I'm going to research this. Whatever the next right action is for you to take, you won't be able to do everything at once. But if you schedule it, you put it on your calendar, put it in your to-do list, it's there, and you don't just come home with a bunch of notes and feel exhausted and feel like I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. It's just so much in my brain. I mean, it's a natural thing for that to happen and to feel overwhelmed when you get home with all that information. So that's why while you're at the event, while you're in the session, make your notes on your paper, in your app, wherever. This is what I need to do. I'm going to highlight this. When I get home, this is what I need to do. Notes in the app or on paper are worthless without you taking action on them. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you're on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, you can find, actually any social media, you can find me at Doree Allen, and I'd be happy to answer any more questions that I haven't already covered in this or in part 1 about video conferences.